welcome back to Mzansi Insider. Now, on the 9th of August in 1956, 20,000 women marched to the Union buildings in Pretoria. They were protesting against apartheid. The apartheid's government passed laws that forced South Africans for a life of restricted freedom and movement.
Yes, that is so true. Women have played a pivotal role in the fight for our freedom. In Sivelaphi, Siyaphi, which is a very interesting title, 10 women from the Eastern Cape embark on a journey from PE to the Union buildings. The same journey taken by the Eastern Cape women in 1956 when they were protesting against the past laws. Namhlanje siyahlezi Busisiwe Ntintili. Lotshani sesinjani? Welcome to Mzansi Insider.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Now let's talk a little bit about this documentary. How did the idea come about, and what inspired you to want to do a documentary?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I was born in South Africa, but I grew up in America. My parents were freedom fighters, and they were fighting from outside of the country for our freedom. So when I came back to South Africa after varsity, for me, I wanted to soak up as much about our history and learn about where I come from as a young person. And through film, I mean, I wanted to be a storyteller, and through film, it's given me an opportunity to really learn a lot about where I come from as an African and where we come from collectively.
Yeah. Now, what can one take away from watching the documentary specifically?
Well, the documentary is interesting because it takes 3 generations of women. So it's the original 1956 women who actually marched onto the steps of the Union building. So those women are like go-go's now, you know? And then we took women from 1976 who were part of, you know, the Soweto uprisings and fighting against Afrikaans in schools, which is still happening today, interestingly enough, in Stellenbosch and places like that. And then finally we took women of our generation post-94, post-democracy, and we put them all together on a train, and they reenacted the journey that the original women took from PE to Pretoria. And through that, there was a lot of dialogue through the different generations of the struggles that as women we faced in the past and still face today. So it's very enlightening.
So, Sisi, ungati kuyini oyifundileko, what have you learned about yourself and the history of your country through your journey doing the documentary?
So, yeah, I learned so much. First of all, I learned that us women, South African women, are very strong, and that there's no South African history without women. Like, we were the crux of the struggle. We kept it going. A lot of our mothers and grandmothers sacrificed their lives, sacrificed, you know, children, for our freedom today. So that to me it gives me strength to know that as a woman today in my field, that I come from a lineage of very strong, you know, women.
Absolutely. Now, you've grown up in America and you're back in South Africa. Take me through the struggle of the modern day South African woman.
Sure. I mean, I think there's a lot of struggles that we're facing, and I think the modern woman today is trying to juggle her career. She's trying to have a voice in the workplace, but at the same time deal with personal life as well, and things like dating and how do you know, interact with men, but on an equal level, you know. So I think all of those things come into play.
Yeah.
So would you say you ladies struggle really hard with your multitasking skills to juggle everything together, basically?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like a circus.
Yeah. So what would you say is the one thing that we should learn from the women of 1956 as the modern day women?
I think as modern day women, sometimes we get caught up in, you know, sometimes frivolous things, you know, whether it's, you know, fashion or trends or being the cutest or whatever. And then we forget that there's real issues even today that a lot of women face, even today, you know, who don't have basic running water, who don't have access to education or access to healthcare. So when I look at the women from 56, the one thing that I took away from them most is they said, you have to have a purpose in life. Whatever you do, you have to know exactly where you're going and what you're doing this for. Have a vision, have a purpose, because that drives you forward in everything that you do.
Yeah. Now, Heritage Month is upon us. How important is it for us as young South Africans to spread the knowledge of our cultures and our struggles with a documentary such as yours, for instance?
I think it's so important. I mean, I grew up in the States, like you said, but my parents always instilled the fact that I'm African, and never forget that, because the world is big, and if you don't know where you're coming from, how can you know where you're going? So I think as young people, we really need to plug into our heritage, because it gives us grounding from which to, you know, blossom and do great things in the world.
Yeah, that is so amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming through. It was awesome. When is it coming out? Details about the documentary. Where can you catch it?
Well, you can catch it. We're launching, my company, Sidewalk, is launching a online TV platform called Sidewalk TV. And it's going to be all original African, youth-orientated entertainment. So from drama, comedy, etc. So we're going to be debuting the documentary on sidewalktv.com. So look out for that in September.
Cool. Now, if other ladies want to get in touch with you and figure out how to actually put together a documentary such as yours, where do they get a hold of you?
You can find me on Facebook, Busisiwe Ntintili, or on Twitter, it's Ntintili.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Njenga nje isikhathi ukuthi sithinge entolo nasibuyako it's fashion on the list.